Welcome to another episode of Unshackled for Life, where we are unlocking prosperity and liberating wealth. I'm your host, John Green, and in today's episode, we'll be addressing breaking free from living paycheck to paycheck. So I'll discuss some interesting statistics for what percent of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And then we'll, of course, get into some ways to get out of that vicious cycle. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today on another episode of Unshackled for Life. Again, I'm John Green. So, like I said earlier, today's episode is all about living paycheck to paycheck and how to break free from that cycle. So, I wanted to first give a definition for what it means to live paycheck to paycheck. So, it means living. It means living to where if you were to miss one paycheck, then you would be put into a financial bind. According to a Forbes study that was conducted last year, there are some statistics that say that there are 78% of Americans who live paycheck to paycheck. So that's almost 4 out of 5 people in the United States that are living to where if they missed one paycheck, things might, you know, things might become a little desperate and a little uncomfortable. And, if you think it's just poor people, I mean, there's 80% of the country is not what we would consider, poverty stricken or poor. So, some more interesting facts from the same study is that for those who made over $100,000, it's still 50% of Americans. So, 1 out of 2 that would still struggle if they were to miss one paycheck. And, they even went a step further and said, households that made over $200,000, it was still about 33%. So still 1 out of 3 people even making $200,000. Those are some very interesting statistics. And, in my opinion, I just don't believe that you can blame those sort of statistics on, you can't blame it on one particular part of the country or one particular group of people. 4 out of 5, like, I'm just rounding 78% up to 80%. 4 out of 5 people that's quite the majority. And and the fact that it feeds into those who we would consider high income earners, it just really begs the question of what is going on. Why is it that this many people are being impacted by this? So that's what I want to dive into today. I want to talk about, what might be a cause for people living paycheck to paycheck. I definitely at one point was a part of the 78%. Um, but once I got myself out of debt and took control of my money and my finances, I won't say there's no going back to that. But what I can say is, as life has come, I've been able to weather storms that in the past probably would have broken me financially. So we're going to dive into this, and at the end, I will definitely try to give you some advice on how you can break free from the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. All right? So, I want to start with these statistics and really kind of diving into them a little bit deeper. Okay, so if you were wondering where these statistics are coming from, they're coming from a Forbes study that was conducted last year. and posted on April 2nd last year. So in the study, like I said, Forbes did a survey, and these are the numbers they came up with. So if 50% of people who make over $100,000 are living paycheck to paycheck, to me that really lends itself to some sort of behavioral issue. And and I won't call it, well, it is an issue. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's an issue. So when we think about this, a lot of people have this lifestyle and this desire to show that they have it, and a lot of people are living above their means. Another interesting tidbit about these statistics, I'm gonna give you something that really shocked me when I was doing this research. The study showed that out of those who were surveyed, 84% of them, 84% said that they use credit cards to make ends meet. So basically, they're using high interest credit cards, high interest debt to to supplement their monthly living expenses. And when when you think about the interest rates that are attached to credit cards, you're talking 20 to 25% interest rates. That's a very that's a very steep price to borrow money at. And that's part of, in my I'm thinking that's part of this cycle, is people are putting themselves in more and more debt. And with these high interest rates, it just it becomes very hard and very difficult to pull yourself out of it. All right, even Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest people in the world, he's once said that if you were sitting here, if he were to have used credit card debt, you know, he probably would, he would never have become wealthy at all, just from basically understanding the cost, just the way interest works. There's positive interest, which comes from you investing and saving your money. And then there's negative interest where, it's just draining you. It's just being taken away from you. So here at Unshackled for Life, we're definitely trying to push you towards the investing positive side of interest, as opposed to actually and getting away from and staying away from those leeching negative types of interest that just continue to pull you backwards. Okay, I'd like to take a moment to talk about some of the causes of living paycheck to paycheck according to those who were surveyed. So the majority of people, about 49%, I won't say majority, but half of the people said that their paycheck to paycheck lifestyle is due to high monthly bills. Um, Other things that were highly ranked were a lack of budgeting and financial planning. You also had low income, unexpected emergencies, income in the cost of live. I'm sorry, increase in the cost of living, inflation, no doubt. And then I found one that I found to be pretty interesting was social pressures, where they kind of broke it down based on generation. And it's kind of interesting because as a whole, across generations, over one fourth of the people said that it was social pressures that is causing them to live paycheck to paycheck. The highest group in that was millennials, where one out of three millennials basically said that you know social pressures cause them to be stuck in this lifestyle where they're one paycheck away from being, you know, basically being financially ruined. So, there's definitely, and actually, and another one that I found to be interesting was the last reason, or the lowest reason, was debt, where it said only, overall, a little less than 6% of people said that it was related to debt. I call bullshit on that, but I'm thinking that that debt is probably tied into those high monthly bills. That's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but from what I know about Visa, Mastercard, Discover, and other credit card companies, I know they're doing pretty good. So I'm pretty sure that debt is a little bit more, to the story there. Okay, that's just my opinion, but I'm pretty confident about that one. All right. So let's get into, I want to, it's a lot to unpack and it's a lot to discuss here. I want to start just this idea of living paycheck to paycheck. I'm going to throw out one more statistic, and and then we'll kind of get deeper into it. So I want to talk about the savings that these people had. So out of the people studied, they said that, they said that on average, monthly expenses is right around $3,400 a month on average. But then 72% of those who were studied said that they had less than $2,000 in savings. So that means that 72% of the people studied don't have enough money set to the side to even cover 1 month of expenses. And if that's you, don't feel bad. It's 72% of Americans. That's pretty scary to me. Like that's, you know, it's interesting because as you move around, you kind of look at others and how they're living. I look at social media and what I see on TV, and it becomes pretty hard to believe that so many people are, just making it. They're barely scraping by. And, you know, when I think about the stresses that come with debt, it, it makes me wonder, why do people like that stress? That I don't get. I don't understand why people would want to live a life where you're constantly stressed out about money and you're constantly stressed about how you're going to make ends meet each month. That's not comfortable. And again, I've been there. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm on a high horse. I've been there, and I'll explain my story. I'll share some of my stories in a moment. But I really think that mindset needs to be changed. I really do, and that's why I bring you Unshackled for Life, because I believe everyone should be out of debt and working on saving instead of working on increasing their positive interest as opposed to being pulled down and burdened by the negative interest of credit and loans and all other types of consumer debt. So, all right, now that I've said that, it's a whole lot. Those are some very intriguing numbers to me. And you know, if you're on the side where you're in debt and you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's okay. Like I said, you're normal. You're in the majority. So, I guess what I want to ask you is, why not be abnormal? Why not go against the grain? What do you think your life would be like? Just kind of imagine it for a moment. What would life be like if there was no credit debt and no creditors calling you? What would life be like without a car loan, without a car note, without student loans? What would life be like? What do you think? Just imagine it. I mean, in some cases, what would life be like without a mortgage? Like, that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? I don't know. I think it would be pretty cool. But okay. paycheck to paycheck. So I want to now talk about, now that we kind of talked about the numbers of how many people are affected by it. Um, you know, just the why. What, the social pressures, the cost of high monthly bills. What kind of monthly bills are do we have that are high? I'm thinking car notes. I'm thinking, credit card debt. And, of course, we have our cell phones. Some of you have very fancy cell phones, and you're paying for them each and every month. And then you get the newest one whenever they come out. You're paying that every month. I mean, it's kind of like an ongoing, it's an ongoing leech of money from you. And, it's cool to have the nice, shiniest thing, newest and shiniest thing, but is it worth your happiness? Is it worth the stress of knowing that, you have these extra bills that are going to burden you? Um, you know, just that this whole thing of personal finance, when you learn to control the money, and you can actually put your money towards saving and investing and putting it towards positive things, you really never want to go back to that side of borrowing and putting things on credit cards, because that money costs. That's going to cost you later down the road. And it's just a very bad negative, you know spiral of all the hard work you do. When you think about, for those of you who have 9 to 5 type jobs, or either hourly or salary type jobs, you're putting in a lot of work to survive. And that hard earned money, meaning to watch it go to credit card companies for you going out and you know buying dinner one night at a fancy restaurant. Or maybe you just had to buy the newest Jordans as they came out, or whatever it is, whatever your spending habits are. At the end of the month, if you feel a little guilty, or if you feel a little stressed for your purchase, and you really start to have some second thoughts, then stop doing it. Just stop doing it. It's going to happen. I've made purchases that I regret, but now I'm kind of in a position where if I'm buying something, I know it's bought, I know it's done. If it works out, great, excellent. If it doesn't, I'm a little irritated because now I just lost some money, but at least I know it's all right. It's not costing me extra in the form of interest. Okay, so what I like to do next, I'd like to talk about breaking free. Because if you're in the position of living paycheck to paycheck, I probably don't need to tell you about the negative effects of it, because you're living it and you know it. And that's probably why you're seeking financial literacy, on a show like this one, like Unshackled for Life. So let me give you that. Let me give you some keys to success here, keys to unlocking wealth. So to me, well, not just to me, but here at Unshackled for Life, we believe in three main principles. Number one, setting financial goals. Number two, I want you to take control of your money, and that's going to be in the form of budgeting and tracking your spending. And then number three, I want you to become a mindful consumer, meaning I really want you to consider deeply what you're spending your money on, or what you're putting your money towards. Um, and by doing those three things, you'll find yourself free, free from being in debt, free from negative impacts of bad financial decisions. You'll feel the stress melt away, and you'll find your quality of life increase tremendously. All right. So I kind of want to, I would like to take a sidestep here and just kind of talk a little bit about my history and why I'm talking about these sorts of things. So for me, when I came out of college at an early age, I you know, actually while in college, I kind of had my first interaction with a credit card. And with the first credit card I got, I mean, I instantly went out and bought some stupid stuff. I went out and bought like a car stereo and, you know, didn't max out the card, but used the card and, definitely got my first dose of debt. And not just that, but because I got one credit card, I thought, why not apply for more? So I applied for more credit cards. And before I knew it, I had tons of credit cards. And a lot, well, I won't say tons, but I had a lot. I had a lot. So many, I used to wrap them up with a rubber band and throw them in a drawer. Now, that lifestyle, credit, credit, credit. I mean, just borrow, borrow, borrow. That became my mindset, my lifestyle. And at the time, I was living in Los Angeles, where it wasn't cheap, even back in the early, the late '90s and early 2000s. And you know, by the time I made it to Houston, and I was out here living basically with credit cards on credit cards, and it just became a vicious cycle, and that went on for some years. It wasn't until about, I'll say, 2014, 2013, 2014, I really started to take control of my finances. And as I did, I was able to see some big changes that happened. And now, along with my wife, we work together with our finances, and my life now is completely different. Like there's not a level of stress when it comes to money. Um, I still care about, what I have and what goes out, of course, because like I said, being being a mindful consumer is one of the principles here at Unshackled for Life. And very conscious about what I'm spending my money on now. At first, you know, playing around on Amazon, see something, buy it. I mean, that was the beauty of Amazon, right? Purpose of Prime, free shipping. And, you know, that along with, not just Amazon, but pretty much wherever I would go. I mean, I would purposefully go out every week to go shopping. And why? I don't know. It was just kind of like just kind of a habit. Every week, hey, let's go shopping. And, what are we buying? I don't know. We're just going shopping. We're just going to go out and go look and see if we want to see if, find something to buy. That was a different mindset. Like I don't do that now. I'm not, my goal is not to go spend my money on some material thing when I know I can invest it and make some more money on the side. So it's just mindset, everybody. It's mindset. So another thing, how has being unshackled benefited me? So there was an incident just this past summer of 2024, where I got sick and I spent 4 or 5 days in the hospital. And, you know, I already knew it wasn't going to be cheap, but when the bills finally came in, that was probably like November, December when they started to come in. And, when the bills came in, it was actually, I was quite surprised that they weren't as high as I thought. So that kind of made me feel good to know that my insurance at work isn't that bad, because I really thought it was. But also, it wasn't a horrible financial strain. And when I was in the hospital, I really wasn't worried about paying them back. I was more worried about, oh man, this is gonna set back some of our retirement plans, or oh, this is gonna set back, you know, other plans we had. But it turned out to be okay. we had enough in our emergency fund to take care of it, and it wasn't that bad of a, it was okay. And I'm very thankful that, I'm feeling healthier now and better, and everything's fine and everything's paid for, and that's good. That was a good unshackled moment. It was a good, just something came up. I was able to take care of it. We were able to take care of it. Another instance where being debt free came in handy, I changed jobs. So well, actually, let me back up. So I'm a school teacher. So my last school I taught at, love the people. Love the people. Worked there for, I don't know, about 12, 13 years. Loved everything about the school. Only problem was about an hour commute to and from home. So it was a ways away. And, one summer I just kind of said, let me see if I can get a job up here closer to home. So when I applied and got a position up here closer to the house. And when I took that job, it was in a different district, so I pretty much had to start over again as far as, well, just how paydays work when you switch jobs. So I knew there was going to be a gap. Um, but it turned out to be, I didn't expect that gap to be 2 months, and it turned into 2 months. So it was from like July 24th, and it went all the way to, I don't think I got paid until like September. I don't know if it was the 15th or the 31st, but whatever it was, over 2 months later. And, yes, my wife and I, we both work. So we were still getting her income. But even on my side of the income, I was able to still cover my bills without having to without having to tell my wife, "Hey, baby, can you please come help me cover these?" We were still able to continue doing what we were doing, and we were still able to make it work. Based on those statistics I told you earlier, 78% of the country can't do that. And it's not a flex, it's not a brag. It's just, man, like 78% of the country wouldn't have been able to have handled that. Me being, they wouldn't have been able to handle 2 to 3 months of being without a paycheck, even though I knew one was coming in. But it was kind of it was a bigger gap than I thought. And even with that, it still able to survive that hiccup, that financial hiccup in life. And it wasn't even, it wasn't, it was going to start to become a little irritating. I was getting a little irritated, but the money was there and it was okay. So you tell me, what's better, living paycheck to paycheck, or having money to do things like that, having money to change jobs if you want to change jobs, having money to take care of emergencies when emergencies come up. Because, one thing I can tell you about emergency funds, when you have a good one, emergencies do not happen. Well, financial emergencies do not happen as often as you would expect. Okay? It's just a fact. It's just a fact. If it's there, if you have it, then you're not really being as bothered by it. So, again, I really want to emphasize this mindset, that this shift in mindset. Instead of instead of being a high instead of being a high consumer where you're buying and buying and buying and going into debt and trying to do all this extra stuff, just kind of calm down a little bit. Just, I'm not telling you not to live your life and not to enjoy life, because I enjoy life, but just bring it down a bit. Moderation. Just moderation. It'll change your life. Okay. So let's now talk about, I want to go back to that emergency fund, and having some extra money on the side. So when we talk about this paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, by having an emergency fund, by having a few $1,000s in the bank, just just there and available for if you need it. It it will help you, it'll help give you stability, and it will give you a foundation to where, again, those emergencies, they aren't big deals. They aren't emergencies. Um, like I said earlier, if the average household expense is $3,400, you know, you probably want to have at least, you know, common advice is to have at least 3 months worth of monthly expenses in the bank, just in case if something bad were to happen. So, 3,400 times three is going to be, 10,000. I'm sorry, it's like $10,200. Um, and now I'm starting to wonder, is it 1,200? Yeah, no, that's right, about $10,200. So, you know, if you have that, if you have about $10,000 put to the side, assuming that your expenses are somewhere in that three to $4,000 range, it gives you a humongous cushion. It gives you, it starts to open up some options to you. So, one thing that I found to, kind of, that I would kind of chuckle at once I got out of credit debt and, on my consumer debt, with the exception of my house, you know, my mindset started to completely change. I started to think, instead of what I could spend my money on next, I was starting to think of, hmm, now that we have money saved, how can I enjoy life more? Because now I'm in a position to enjoy life more. There's more opportunity to take trips, to take vacations. There's more opportunities to reconsider career choice. Um, and that's a big one. There are a lot of unhappy people who are working, and you know and I'm sure you might be one of them, or you probably work with a few those folks who are constantly complaining. you know if you make yourself financially free, or at least debt free, you'll start to see there's opportunities out there for you. Maybe you do want to go back to school and learn a new skill. Maybe you want to, take a break from working whatever job you're currently working, and you want to go do, a sabbatical. You want to take a break, go travel the world, something like that. Those opportunities can be yours. You can have those options. So, just something to think about. Um, when you have that, that emergency fund, is it's not just there as, just for emergencies. It's there to give you a peace of mind. It's like having some really good insurance, and it's completely different from having a credit card as your emergency fund. Because, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you're one of those like 72% that are depending on a credit card to keep you afloat, then, then you're going to kind of stay in that cycle of debt. It's almost like those payday loans. And, those payday loans, that they're really bad things to get into, because if you didn't have the $400 or whatever you're borrowing, I'm just going to say 400. If you didn't have the $400 this week to make ends meet, now you're going into this payday loan, and now that $400 is costing you, what, like $80. And that means that on your next paycheck, now you got to pay $480. Chances are you're going to be right back there getting out another $480 to make ends meet for the next month, especially if you're not changing any of your spending habits. If you're not making any changes on the spending side, then you're going to keep on borrowing on the borrow side, on the costly side. And again, personal experience here. Years ago, I was, the bank I was with, they had this payday advance thing where you could get up to, you could take out up to $500, you know, as long as you had direct deposit set up, you could take a $500 payday advance. And I think they charged you like $2 for every $20, so 10% basically is what you were paying. So that $500 cost you $50. And I got caught up in that. I think the first time I took out like $200 for, and then the next time I took out, the next payday, I had to take out another $200. But then it kind of built itself up to where I was taking out $500. And it got to the point to where I ended up getting a letter in the mail that said, "Hey, we're not going to give you any more money. You've already abused this payday advance feature. So from here on out, we're not going to to give you this advance anymore." And I was so upset because I was so hurt. The next time I went to the ATM, because you could just do it right there at the ATM. So the next time I went to the ATM, I was like, yeah, yeah, they're still gonna let me get it. And sure enough, nope, they had turned that joker off. So I was sitting like, dang, now I gotta wait. Now I gotta wait an extra week. And it got to the point to where and it was such a bad thing because I was getting a bonus on that last, but like the last one I took or I needed to take, I was getting a bonus on the next paycheck. So I was like, cool. When I get my bonus, I'll never need to use this again because my bonus is gonna cover this and more. So I'll never have to use this feature again anyway. But they didn't let me take that last one out, even though I was getting the bonus. So, I really I ended up struggling for a week or two. But, once the bonus came in, at that point I got kind of irritated with my bank, got kind of mad. And that anger it kind of helped. It kind of helped because it made me refocus. I'm one of those people. I'm not gonna say I'm petty, but I'm one of those folks. You mess with me, I'm gonna make sure that I never deal with you again. And and that's kind of what happened. So I ended up leaving that bank, and I went to another bank, and never needed that payday advance ever again. Luckily, but it's a vicious cycle to be stuck in that. And I know not everybody gets lucky to have the bonus come in to get out of it and to stop it, but that's kind of what happened in my situation. There were some blessings there. Um, but you know, now, now that's not something I really worry about. It's not something I need to do. I don't need to sell the title of my car. My car is paid off. I don't need to sell that I don't need to go take out a title loan. There's money saved. It's there for an emergency, it serves its purpose. It's just a piece of financial freedom that allows you to relax a little bit instead of being worried that you might run out of money sometime soon. So I encourage you to make that a part of your financial plan, is to create an emergency fund and to get out of debt. And then, once you have those two things taken care of, you'll find that, life is pretty good. Life is pretty, financially life is good at that point. Um no debt and an emergency fund, you're set at that point. You're in a position to where you can invest. You can look into you can focus on retirement. You can focus on doing things that you want to do. If you want to start a business, if you want to, take a vacation, you can kind of put your money that you were spending on debt towards the things that you really want to do and things that you enjoy. If you're a giver and you want to give to charity, you'll have more money for that too. So just unshackled, you guys. Just an unshackled for life mindset. All right, everyone. So in summary, I'd like to just remind you what we've discussed today. We've talked about how 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. We've talked about some of the reasons and causes of that. But more importantly, we've talked about how you can join the 22% that is not living paycheck to paycheck. I encourage you to pay off your credit debt and your consumer debt, and then grow yourself an emergency fund so that you can have a solid foundation, a cushion for any emergencies that may arise. And that basically will get you out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle. All right. I hope this information has been helpful today. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please feel free to like and follow us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and feel free to reach out. Please visit us at www.unshackled4life. That's unshackled, the number 4, life.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Peace and love, everybody. Wish you well. Take care.